Welcome back. Bank of Canada is probably going to cut rates this month, and it's because, to my understanding, we got a very bad jobs report. So I got a couple things I want to go over today, starting with this article here. Canadian economy bled 66,000 jobs in August as unemployment rate at its highest since pandemic days. So Canada's unemployment rate reached nearly its highest point since 2016 as the economy shed 66,000 jobs in August, according to new data. The unemployment rate rose 0.2 percentage points in August to 7.1%, a level last seen in May 2016 if the COVID-19 years are excluded from this data. Now, currently, unemployment rates across the country as a whole were at 7.1%, up 0.2%. BC is at 6.2%. You have Alberta now at 8.4%, up 0.6%. And I don't know, man. A lot of people are moving to Alberta. They had like record high immigration or migration last year. I actually feel like the last 3 years, their interprovincial migration has been soaring, right? And I've been talking a lot about the real estate market there and probably why I wouldn't touch it as an investment because I think the whole reason why people were moving there was it was more affordable. But if the prices go up there, which they have, and you can't get a job, well, it's not necessarily more affordable. So that interprovincial migration might be coming to a stop. Now, Saskatchewan holding up pretty good at 4.7, Manitoba at 5.7, Ontario at 7.7. I think Toronto is 9.2, Quebec at 6%, and then you have 7.7 in New Brunswick, 6.5 Nova Scotia, 8.1 PEI, and 10.7% in Newfoundland. None of it 9.8, Northwest Territories 5.4, and then the lowest in the country is Yukon at 4.2%. Back to this. Of the 66,000 jobs lost, they were largely in part-time work, reducing hiring, and layoffs largely fueled those numbers, Statistics Canada said, with the layoffs rate rising to 1% in August compared to 0.9% at the same time last year. This comes after the economy lost a total of 41,000 jobs last month. The figures are more dire than economists had predicted. A Reuters poll ahead of the release predicted a gain of 10,000 jobs and the unemployment rate to rise to 7%. And as you can see, since March of 2023, the unemployment rate has just been rocketing and is really showing no signs of slowing down anytime soon. The transportation and warehouse sector lost 23,000 jobs, manufacturing bled 19,000, and the scientific and technical services sector also dropped 26,000 jobs. Geographically, Canada's manufacturing hubs were also hit harder, with Windsor, Ontario, reporting an unemployment rate of 11.1%. I think that's the highest in the country. And thankfully, I sold my one investment property that I had in Windsor. I think it was early last year, or maybe towards the end of 2023, I sold that. I doubled up on it, but I would imagine that market's doing a whole lot worse now than it was a year and a half ago. Persistent uncertainty around U.S. trade policy has kept Canadian businesses on tenterhooks, whatever that means, leading to minimal hiring and investment affecting the job market and economic growth. Construction, on the other hand, made 17,000 new roles. Now, I've been talking about construction for a while and how I think 2026 is going to look a lot different for construction. We are apparently still somehow adding new jobs in the construction industry, yet everybody I talk to in that field is struggling. I know a buddy whose check just bounced. He went to cash in a check from his employer. It bounced. I got other buddies that are deep in line of credit. I know people that are having to remortgage their homes to make payroll, people that got let go of their jobs, but that's not being reflected in the data yet. The reason why I'm confident that 2026 will be the year we actually start to see this take effect is because construction lags housing starts. And housing starts have been pretty abysmal since the middle of 2022. And that cycle, the process of getting a home built, takes 2, 3, 4 years, right? Before it's finished and those workers have to move to a new job. Well, as we get into 2026, most of the stuff that's in the pipeline was stuff that was pre-sold 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023. As we get into the middle of 2026, the bulk of that stuff will finally be completed. And when it's done and the bulk of the construction pipeline is somewhat dry, or at least drier than what it is now, a lot of these construction workers may not have another job to go to. Now, I found this chart. Somebody was writing about it on Twitter, and this is construction quits, and this is in the US, but we have really bad data here in Canada. So the Fed has better data on Canada than Canada has on Canada. But this is the quits chart. And as you can see, almost nobody's quitting their job. In a healthy market, you will have more people quitting their jobs. When I was a plumber, it was like every 2 or 3 years, typically what happens is you're working at your company and then you run into somebody at the wholesaler or the suppliers or whatever, and they run a company and you have a conversation, you take their number, they end up calling you and offering you a job for like a better position, for more money, for better benefits, for better this, for better that, pretty much every 2.5 years. Therefore, you would quit your job and then you would go start a new position at that company. That's what would happen. Like if you're in construction, you're probably well aware of this. People move around so much in construction. It's very rare that somebody stays at a company for longer than like 3 to 5 years, right? People move around all the time. And that is not happening right now, right? The reason why nobody's quitting their job is because A, they're scared that if they lose the job that they have, there's not going to be another one to go to, right? So they're just focused on being a good employee, making the employer proud, and being as valuable as they can be so they can, keep that job. B, there isn't somebody calling them, offering them a better position and a reason to quit their job. And what that means is that this would be an early indicator to rising unemployment. The better opportunities have already dried up in the US, and pretty soon a very normal opportunity, which is just keeping your job, is going to be the good or the better opportunity. Right. So I would say this is an early indicator to more jobs being lost in the construction industry. And yeah, I know this is the States, but it's not like we're doing any better than the States, right? So I would imagine it's going to be the same over here. He then goes on to say, in some ways, it's almost textbook. Exactly the sectors you would expect to be affected by the trade war are some of the weakest. He says the weak report could open the door to rate cuts by the Bank of Canada later this month, though with inflation remaining high, that factor hasn't given them the all clear. Still, Porter expects a rate cut when the central bank announces its next interest rate decision on Sep 17. The markets are betting on that too. Money markets were putting in odds of a rate cut at almost 92% after the jobs data, which is up from 72% earlier. Across the border in the U.S., the labor market picture was also bleak. Unemployment rose in that country to 4.3%, a four-year high. Their economy has also added a mere 22,000 jobs, which were a substantial miss from the 75,000 figure that economists pulled by Reuters. So right now we have like pretty much all the job losses coming in these sectors right here. But we haven't felt the job losses in the construction industry yet, even though, not only that, they're still adding 17,000 jobs to this. So, and I would imagine as we get into 26, I think you're going to see that go negative. I'm not an economist, but I was in construction, and construction lags real estate. I went from construction to real estate, and I think that picture is going to get a lot more bleak as we go into 2026. Now, what are rate cuts going to do, right? Because this is the question, right? A lot of sellers want the rate cuts because they believe that it will increase, if not the price of their home, at least activity in the market, and it might, but I'm going to show you that it's probably going to be pretty abysmal, right? So here I have the 30-year variable rate mortgage at a $700,000 purchase price. Okay. And it's spitting out 4.4% on the calculator. I actually don't know what variable rates are because I don't have any clients that have really gone variable. Pretty much everybody's still going fixed. But let's just say you knock 25 basis points off your payment, right? So right now you're at 27.91. Okay. We get a quarter point cut. Now that rate goes from 4.4 to 4.15. You're saving $80 a month, right? How much demand is that going to bring back to the market? Well, $80 a month means you're saving $960 a year. And if you times that by 4.5, it's roughly $4,500, which means, not a mortgage broker, just very like napkin math, this would give you a purchasing power of about $4,500. That means buyers can afford to pay $4,500 more for a home if they have no debt or any other liabilities, right? I believe that's how the math goes, which isn't very much. And, it's only, $80 is $80, but it's $80, right? On a $2,800 a month mortgage, you're saving $80, right? And that's on a $700,000 purchase. I could imagine like if it's, let's just say it's 500,000, right? Most first-time home buyers are at the 500,000. Okay, you're at 1936. Let's say that goes up to 4.4, 1994. So that's $58 a month you would save on a $500,000 purchase, which isn't that much. So I personally think a 25 basis point rate cut is probably going to do absolutely nothing. It feels good. I'll say, like, it feels like positive. Something's happening instead of just, for the last couple months, it feels like just nothing's been happening. It just feels like we're kind of just trapped in this negative echo chamber. But I don't think it's going to do anything to save the market at the current time being. And I mean, these things take a long time to play out, right? Your purchasing power increases by $5,000. Now you're saving an extra $80 a month. Everybody in Canada who has a variable rate mortgage is saving that extra $80 a month. They're putting away in a savings account, or they're paying off their debt. They're building up their savings, or they're spending that money into the economy. It's not going to be something that's just instantaneously everything is better and et cetera, et cetera. But it does look like they're going to cut rates. It is now a 92% chance. And, I kind of always had the opinion that when faced with inflation or collapse, they're always going to choose the inflationary route, because at least if you choose the inflationary route, you can, that would lead to a collapse at some point, but it at least gives you more time to think about a solution to your impending doom. Where if you just choose collapse, you just face the impending doom right now, which is probably what they should do, but they're not ever going to do that. So we'll have to see what happens on the rate announcement, but it is looking like a cut for now. And if you want to chat with me about buying or selling real estate in the Fraser Valley, there's a link down in the description. Otherwise, I just appreciate you for watching my content. I'm that Agent Kelly. I'm making moves to move you. Peace.